Well, good morning, guys. Here we are at the Mood House once again in the dark. We are now in the pitch black dark season. Except now Sunday will change. We'll have sunlight for a while, daylight savings. But here we go.
Any update on Charlie?
Dave's got an update on Charlie.
Yeah, I visited with Charlie yesterday, I guess it was. He hopes the plan is to dismiss him from center rehab on Saturday and head home. He'll still be restricted for a while. Keep him in your prayers because Charlie gets home with his issues, and then his wife has double knee replacement within a week. So they do have help coming in, but if you're so moved, you might ring them and say, hey, what can I do?
Yeah.
And the meal will be appreciated. You do have family around, so he's trying to get back to his crutch, and they won't let him. He's restricted to walker. He looks good, and his attitude's good, but he's ready to get out of that place.
Charlie's attitude is always good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that update, and thanks for asking. Well, monumental morning this morning. We're actually going to move to a new chapter. So, chapter 33, we'll be looking at that. So, somebody want to get that ready and read it here in just a little bit. We'll read chapter 33. Just some review slides. We're still here, but we're starting to move. We're still at the same spot, but we want to group chapter 33 with chapter 32 for some reasons that'll become more obvious as we talk this morning. Last week, you guys took this slide on as a group, and well, we laid, by review, we laid chapter 32 out as in three parts. There's a struggle that occurs in chapter 32, and we've identified that struggle had purpose, and that something new came out of that. And so I transposed these words, or this process that's common to all of us, and asked each of us to identify kind of where we fit on the slide with those words. And it sounds like you guys had a pretty good time last time discussing that as a group. So that's where we have been. And now moving on, we're still in group 5 snapshots. Group 5 snapshots have consisted of 4 parts, 4 snapshots. One is Jacob reaches out to his brother Esau. That's early in chapter 32, and then Jacob, once he hears back that his brother's coming, Esau with 400 men, it just scares the living dickens out of him, and so he moves into this fear, and he attempts to protect and to seek and to fix. And then we looked at the struggle, which we spent a good amount of time on over the last several weeks. And today what we're going to move on is to finish this up with chapter 33, the actual reunion of the two brothers. And that's what we'll be looking at. So just I thought it'd be good to throw a slide up here to look at the travels of Jacob. And it starts out, there's basically a loop. It goes off screen. But in the early days, it started down in here. It started actually at Beersheba. And then Bethel is a key spot. He left from Bethel. He had this dream that there was a promise. And that then he left and went to Haran and spent really the bulk of his adult life there. He acquired wives, and children and possessions. And then later on in life, he felt God call him back home, which was part of the original plan at Bethel. And so now he returns. This is the route to Haran. And then he came down here. He met up with his with his father-in-law Laban. He got ran down by his father-in-law.
Caught up with him.
Yeah, pursued him. Thank you. He pursued him and caught up with him. That's a better word. Right here, Ramoth Gilead. Then he moved on to Peniel, or Penuel, face of God by the river Jabbok, which means descending, and that's where these events have been taking place that we've been looking at, where the struggle. And now Esau comes up from Seir, which is really modern-day Edom, which is across the Dead Sea. At the southern end of the Dead Sea is Edom, and that's where Esau was from. And so he comes up here, and he comes to his brother and meets him here at Penuel, and this is where it brings us to today, where we're going to look at chapter 33. So let's go ahead and read the text. I put the entire text here on the screen, but if somebody could read it through, just read the whole chapter.
Then Jacob lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau was coming, and 400 men with him. So he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the two maids. He put the maids and their children in front, and Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. But he himself passed on ahead of them, and bowed down to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. Then Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. He lifted his eyes and saw the women and the children, and said, "Who are these with you?" So he said, "The children whom God has graciously given your servant." Then the maids came near with their children, and they bowed down. Leah likewise came near with her children, and they bowed down. And afterward Joseph came near with Rachel, and they bowed down. And he said, "What do you all mean by this company which I have met?" And he said, "To find favor in the sight of my Lord." But Esau said, "I have plenty, my brother. Let what you have be your own." And Jacob said, "No, please, if now I have found favor in your sight, then take my present from my hand, for I see your face as one sees the face of God, and you have received me favorably." Someone else?
Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because God hath dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it, and he said, "Let us take our journey, let us go, and I will go before thee." And he said unto him, "My Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and that the flocks and the herds with young are with me. And if men should overdrive them one day, all the flocks will die. Let my Lord, I pray thee, pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according as the cattle that goeth before me, and the children be able to endure until I come unto my Lord unto Seir." Next.
Esau said, "Please let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "What need is there? Let me find favor in the sight of my Lord." So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the place is named Succoth. Now Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Paddan Aram and camped before the city. He bought the piece of land where he had pitched his tent from the hand of the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Then he erected there an altar and called it El Elohe Israel.
And that means God is the God of Israel. So thank you guys for reading that. And boy, there's actually, I find this kind of humorous. I mean, it's a very moving chapter. I just always kind of focus in on how Jacob set up his family members, call him prioritized here, but that's kind of beside the point. What we've been doing is, we have presented, or I have presented, the events occurring in chapter 32, the struggle, the wrestling match. as a transformational experience in Jacob's life. That's the position I've taken, and I still hold to that. However, and I think this is what really is going to make the latter weeks here of this study really interesting to us, is as we examine the reunion here, I mean, this is post-transformation, right? Right after. And so our expectations, Steve was talking about expectations this morning in regard to the church. Well, you and I, over our lifetime, have built expectations of what transformation should look like. And some of the actions by Jacob within this chapter are kind of substandard of what we would expect a transformed individual to look like. And so that is what we're going to dive into this morning. And so what I'd like us to do is I've created a table time, and I've created, let's do 4 while we were reading. I was kind of counting, and I wonder if Gene or Jack, if you would join Dick and Alan just to kind of even it out a little bit. But I've got four of these worksheets, and we're going to work on this together as a group. Mind going over that? And have some fun with it, because at your tables, identify all actions performed by the 2 brothers in each chapter. Now, notice both brothers, because I want to bring Esau into this. And then as a group at your table, classify each action as demonstrative of either this column, transformational actions, what you would expect to see from a transformed person, or other, less than, and I've labeled that term sub-transformational actions. Where you have questions. Again, because we naturally have an expectation of how Jacob ought to act after he has seen God face to face. So then in the columns, put those actions, and then attach who was actually performing. Now, rather than all of us go through all 20 verses, Bill and Art, and I think Carl's here, why don't you do the first 5, 1 through 5, 6 through 10 at this table, and then Dick and Alan and Gene, if you guys would do then 11 through 15, and then 16 through 20. So is that clear? So have some fun with it, and then try to come up with your list, and then I'm going to bring us back together, and then we're going to create a master list up here on this slide. So have some fun. I will join the table as well. So.